For almost 2,000 years, the official teaching has been that Jesus lived and died as a single man. No wife, no intimate partner, no marriage. But what if that story is incomplete? What if Jesus and Mary Magdalene were not just teacher and disciple, but husband and wife? Today we examine one of the most suppressed possibilities in Christian history, that the man the world calls the Son of God shared his life, his heart, and possibly his bed with Mary Magdalene. The Gospels never say Jesus was unmarried. They simply remain silent. In the Jewish world of the first century, that silence is strange. Marriage was the expected path for a man, especially a teacher. Genesis 2:18 records God's own words, "It is not good for the man to be alone." A rabbi without a wife would have stood out. Jesus is repeatedly called Rabbi. In John 1:38, the first disciples address him with that title. In John 3:2, Nicodemus says, "Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher who has come from God." In a culture where almost every rabbi was married, the complete absence of any mention of a wife raises questions that the traditional story never answers. Mary Magdalene is no minor character. Luke 8:1-3 tells us she traveled with Jesus and the disciples and helped support them from her own resources. She is present at the cross when most of the men have fled. John 19:25 places her there. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother and Mary Magdalene. She is the first person to see the risen Jesus. In John 20:16, Jesus simply says her name, Mary, and she recognizes him and answers, "Rabboni." That moment is deeply personal. He entrusts her with the first announcement of the resurrection. In a society that often dismissed the testimony of women, the Gospels give her the most important news in history. The church later turned her into a repentant prostitute. The Bible never says that. The idea was added centuries later. Many researchers believe it was a deliberate attempt to reduce her status. A woman who stood closer to Jesus than most of the male disciples was inconvenient for a developing male hierarchy. If she was his wife, she was not just inconvenient, she was dangerous. Outside the official canon, an ancient text called the Gospel of Philip speaks more openly. It describes Mary Magdalene as the companion of Jesus and says he loved her more than the other disciples and used to kiss her often. The word translated companion can mean spouse or intimate partner. While this writing was rejected by the early church, it preserves a memory that some early Christian groups held, that the relationship between Jesus and Mary Magdalene was far more than teacher and student. There are quieter details in the canonical Gospels that some find hard to ignore. When Jesus is dying, he looks at his mother and the disciple he loved and rearranges their family bonds. John 19:26-27. Some ask why a wife is never mentioned in that moment. Others see the special closeness between Jesus and certain figures as possible echoes of a deeper private life that the writers chose not to describe. If Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married, the early church had strong reasons to hide it. A married Messiah with a living wife would have complicated the growing doctrine of his unique divinity and celibate perfection. It would also have created a center of authority outside the control of the emerging church structure. A solitary, unmarried Savior was simpler to elevate and easier to control. Legends continued long after the New Testament period. Stories claimed that Mary Magdalene carried the memory and some said the bloodline, of Jesus into other lands. Whether those later tales are history or myth, they show that the idea of a closer relationship never completely disappeared. The official position remains that Jesus was single. Yet the biblical record itself leaves open questions. It never states that he was unmarried. It places Mary Magdalene at the most critical moments of his life and death. It gives her the first encounter with the risen Christ. It elevates her in ways that demand explanation. And ancient alternative texts openly describe a relationship of deep affection and partnership. Was Mary Magdalene simply a devoted follower, or was she the wife of Jesus? The evidence is incomplete and contested, but the traditional claim that their relationship was purely spiritual and distant is not as solid as many have been taught. The silence of the Gospels, the cultural context, the extraordinary role of Mary Magdalene, and the existence of other early traditions all leave the question alive. This is the other side of the story. The side that asks whether the man who taught about love also lived it in the most human way. If this has challenged what you were taught, leave your honest thoughts below. Do you believe Jesus and Mary Magdalene could have been husband and wife? Share this with someone willing to look beyond the official version. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because we will keep examining the questions most churches prefer to leave buried.